So I wanted to get your take on a video that we actually posted earlier today. I think it was an RSBN post. And since you're a police officer, watch this footage. And this is on our Twitter. It's on all of our social media platforms. But watch these two guys and try and help me read their body language.
Okay.
And while you're watching, I'll explain what I'm talking about. So it's a video that we posted about 36 minutes ago of President Trump leaving Trump Tower. He gives a fist bump. He waves to the audience. But there's two New York NYPDs that are standing in that screen. And when I look at it, it just looks like they're almost proud of President Trump. And I don't know if I'm reading that wrong because I'm biased. But what do you think as a former police officer?
Well, the first thing I noticed was how relaxed they were. They weren't tension. They weren't scanning. They weren't, very, afraid of maybe a possible attack or something like that. So that speaks volumes to, maybe intel that they have or whatever at that specific location that they were going to be generally okay. So their relaxed atmosphere was crucial, I think. They were kind of laughing at each other, cutting up, whatever. So just, two regular squad mates out on beat, and just having a good time. And yeah, I think more than likely they're probably fans of President Trump. I don't know 100% because I don't know them, but knowing that, President Trump has been very outspoken about supporting law enforcement, so I would not be surprised at all.
No, I think so too, and it just goes to show kind of what we're up against, the swamp versus the people. Right. And that is clearly described in that. Again, you can catch that clip over on @RSB Network on Twitter. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. It's been a very busy day, and we are just getting started. We have all-day coverage of what's going on. President Trump is expected to be arraigned to basically have to surrender himself in front of a judge, and it's
in just
the
about
same
2 minutes.
thing. And yeah, exactly, in just about 2 minutes. And Micah, there's a lot of words being around, and the word arrested, I mean, it's got such a negative connotation.
Yes.
But technically, President Trump is being arrested today. Is that correct?
In a manner of speaking, he's been taken into custody. He'll be taken into custody for a very short period of time. Then he'll bond out. He'll put a bail, and he's got the money to do that. So he's not having to worry about calling a bail's bondsman like someone probably like us would have to do. But he's not being arrested in the sense that a lot of times we think of, where it's a police officer coming in, putting handcuffs on somebody, perp walking them into the station, doing fingerprints, all that kind of stuff, putting them in a holding cell, then you take them to the jail. It's not like that at all. This is an arraignment where you give up yourself to the court, and it's honestly, I would not be surprised if he's never even put into handcuffs. Now he could be. There absolutely would have the right to do so when he enters the courthouse and says, "Hey, I'm here. I'm the person." Obviously they all know he's coming. It's not a surprise. But if you walked into a courthouse and said, "Hey, I'm guilty of these crimes," or not guilty, but I've been charged with these crimes, and this is, I'm here to give myself up, then yeah, the guards, the sheriffs at your local county courthouse or your city cops, your court cops in the sake of New York, they actually have a whole police department dedicated to that. Then in that case, they may put them in handcuffs, but at the same time, if you're not a flight risk, there's no real reason to. It's really going to determine. It'll be interesting to see actually ultimately what they decide to do inside the courthouse, if they actually do put him in handcuffs or not.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see that as well. Of course, I think for his own mental health, well, he is stronger than I will ever be. I would not have survived the administration, what happened afterwards, the multiple witch hunts, and now this, which I think they're clearly doing because he has announced that he's running, and they're afraid because they know that he's the most popular president in American history, and he's going to secure more votes than ever before, especially after this. But something we discussed very lightly earlier, I want to touch on it briefly, is what's going on today in Wisconsin. And I also want to give a big thank you to Scott Pressler, because he has been relentlessly working on getting Justice Daniel Kelly elected to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Just 48 minutes ago, he posted, "The way that you can have President Trump's back today is by voting to elect Justice Daniel Kelly to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. If you care about making Joe Biden a one-term president, you must get everyone you know in Wisconsin out to vote today." Now, when it comes to scheduling, do you think that this arraignment being scheduled today is in any way trying to overshadow what's going on in Wisconsin? Because this is kind of losing in the news cycle. It's not
Right.
getting as much attention as it should be.
You know, us being on the outside of the mainstream media, I've worked in mainstream media. I worked at a local TV station, saw firsthand how mainstream media operates. And it's hard for me to say 100% every station out there, every network out there is saying, hey, we should do it on this day to make sure that we don't pay attention to Wisconsin. I don't think that's the case necessarily. I do think that the mainstream media will absolutely pick stories over others, and this is a field day for them. They've been wanting this since Trump walked down the escalator in 2015. They've been wanting Trump to be arrested, as they're putting it. I mean, I saw a CNN headline saying Trump officially arrested in New York, and I'm just like, that you can obviously tell they're biased just by the headlines they put in there, using the terms that they're using when this is an arraignment, like we just talked about just a moment ago. It's not what you think of an arrest, but they're using that term intentionally.
They're joyful to use it.
100% they are.
I heard rumors that when this was announced that President Trump was officially going to be indicted, that the White House actually, you could hear an eruption and cheer and applause.
I would not be surprised. The witch hunt, as we saw last rally, people holding up signs saying, witch hunt. This has been going on for a long time. This is nothing new. This is just, they finally got someone to take the political motivation and push them to actually take the bite and go for it.
I think the DA is going to suffer large consequences from this. I think it's already showed. President Trump is now calling for his indictment. He's obviously leaking. Because
of the leaks, which that's unprecedented. I mean, guys, coming from a law enforcement perspective, I can't even imagine what let's say you're an ADA, you're an assistant district attorney, you've been assigned this case. Let's say it's it's a forgery or it's a fraud or something, that's not really criminal in nature, but it's a white collar crime. It's a high known person, and you're working this case diligently. And I'm not talking about President Trump here. I'm just a hypothetical. You're working this case diligently, and then your DA goes and leaks the information, the charges that you've been working so hard to keep under wraps, so that it blows my mind that this would be okay. But this is not new.
No, we've had a few leaks.
We've had a few big leaks under the Biden administration with the justice system.
And we still have no body to pay for that.
No clue what happened with the Supreme Court.
And again, I mean, I worry that no one's going to have to answer to these consequences that seems to happen. If you're a Democrat, you can get away with just about anything. Speaking of Democrats, but this is something that you and I have been familiar with for many years, and I think it's worth mentioning on air. But we actually were struck with some copyright infringement claims from a very large live streaming platform that is based out of Silicon Valley and has ties to big tech. So, Micah, what do you want to say about the fact that RSBN, the week of President Trump's indictment, has a week-long suspension from YouTube starting the day of the indictment? We cannot...
The day before.
So we cannot live stream today to YouTube, which would have been most likely our biggest day of the year, if not...
It would have been huge. We know people are wanting to see this, whether they're from the right, the left, whatever. They're wanting to see this. And what I found it very interesting, if you read our press release, which is on our website, it's also on our social medias, about what happened. We got banned off of YouTube for 7 days because we decided to shoot an exclusive interview with President Trump, because we went to the rally and shot the rally unedited, because we allow content creators to put on our platform, like Frank Pavone, who are huge supporters of the pro-life movement. Because we did this, now we get punished. And this isn't new. This has happened for years and years and years. But it is very suspicious timing.
Yeah.
And it was not just us. There are other creators on Rumble that are, really big creators, like Steven Crowder, that also got a ban on Friday.
I saw Laura Trump on Instagram. She posted, now I believe that all she posted was I don't know what the photo was of. The caption had a quote, and the quote was the lyrics to a song. She actually got that copyright claim because of just typing lyrics to a song. I have never heard of that happening to anyone before. That is quite a stretch, even for big tech.
That blows my mind. Coming from, I've been doing this in this world for a long time, and just having it typed and that being a copyright claim, That really is baffling. It's they're reaching. They're intentionally
reaching.
doing
I hope
this.
they stretch before they reach that hard. Now, Eric Trump just reposted at Paul Sperry _ who said breaking the and which we've discussed this, but I'm going to discuss it with you as well. The daughter of the Manhattan judge presiding over the Trump criminal case is a Democratic political strategist who worked on the congressional campaign of Democrat Rep. Adam Schiff, who led the first impeachment of Trump. And Eric Trump said the swamp runs deep.
Yes, it
How
does.
much more obvious? They're not even trying to hide it, that this is political persecution. They're not trying to hide it, that this is a witch hunt. I mean, this is a slap in the face to the American people.
Honestly, it's a slap in the face to the justice system. And a lot of times I like to reference back to there's a crisis in this nation. There's a lot of crises, but there's a particular crisis in our justice system right now, and it's because it's being politicized. You know, we just talked about the New York cops there, you know, and they seemed like they were having a good time on the corner. Trump come out, very relaxed, very normal. They were okay. But we're seeing huge numbers of police leaving. We're seeing huge numbers of good, ADAs and DAs and judges just quitting and leaving because they are tired of being a part of a system that is constantly being used for political gain and for political reasons. And they're done with it. They're absolutely done with it. And now we're seeing even more. I mean, this is unprecedented. This has never happened in the whole history of the United States.
No, and President Trump is being arrested before Hunter Biden. Are we just going to continue to not discuss what he has done, the illegal wrongdoings? It's mind blowing. I want to bring. There's a photo of President Trump, and it's of course circling the interwebs right now. It's him walking outside Trump Towers, and this is going to be just as famous as him going down the escalators. But he's walking outside, and he's giving a fist pump. Now, what is missing from his outfit that he normally wears? On his lapel.
He doesn't have an American flag on.
Thoughts?
That's interesting. I'm sure it's not a mistake.
No.
That wouldn't be a mistake. So that is very interesting. I'm not entirely sure why that would be the case, but it's interesting that you point that out. He does not have an American flag on his lapel. It would kind of make more sense if he had one on that was upside down.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have one on there, so it's definitely interesting. And I'm not sure if that's because maybe he's afraid that you're going to seize it. I don't think so. That wouldn't make any sense. He's going to be able to walk free with all of his stuff when he, in probably 30 minutes or so. So it is interesting. Interesting note. Very, very good eye, though. Good detail.
Thank you. That's what I do. I like to analyze things. All right, so right now you've got us, you've got me and Micah, but you also have a live look at what's going on outside the courthouse in Manhattan. We are live in New York City. This is live coverage, and man, reminds me of a few other times that I have been out in the public with tens of thousands of people, and President Trump has been just, I don't know the words, just taken advantage of, being harassed. I mean, he's sacrificed so much to be where he is today. Micah, I've asked this, I think, twice now. I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Do you think that President Trump would be getting arraigned today, arrested today, indicted today, whatever you want to call it, if he was not running for president again?
No.
Yeah.
No.
There's no hesitancy there.
No.
With your answer.
Because here's the deal. They've tried to pin him with everything they could in the past, and there's no doubt in my mind that they don't want him in office again. And so this is just a convenient way to try to bring him down, which I think, and I think you probably are the same boat, it's going to backfire. It already has. We've seen the polls dramatically increase for President Trump over the last, several weeks. His huge fundraising of now over $8 million in the last, 72 hours or so.
Yeah, 4 days.
And that's just indicative of that most people, I've seen polls, and these, of course, can't really believe polls anymore, but I've seen polls where it shows that even the majority of Americans, outside of just those who are Republican or conservative or have supported Trump in the past, that even people on the left, even Democrats who are more moderate, go, this is crazy. This is being used as political persecution, not as an actual justice system. So it doesn't surprise me at all that this is happening because he decided to run back in November. I think it was November 15th when he made that announcement. So it looks like now we've got 2 camera angles for you guys from 2 different points of view here on the ground in New York. And we're going to keep this going, keep this up for you guys, and keep you guys updated as we know things. Again, he was scheduled to be arraigned about 10 or 11 minutes ago. So at this point, we do 100% believe. We know he's been in the courthouse. He's been in the courthouse now for at least half an hour. But at this point, he should be in front of the judge and during his arraignment at this time. So we're going to be looking for that information. As we've mentioned on air before, they are not allowing any cameras inside of the courtroom itself. No one's live streaming from there. Fox News isn't, CNN isn't, ABC isn't, no one's in there. We couldn't get in there. And so that's, why we're out here on the ground in front of New York. And at this time, Brian is currently en route to Florida, because tonight we're going to have another broadcast. I do encourage everybody to tune into that as well, where President Trump's actually going to directly address this particular situation that he's going through in a press conference. I believe that press conference will be at 8:15, but we'll start coverage at about 6:30. So I do encourage, and that's Eastern time, so I do encourage people to check that out as well. So we're going to keep you guys updated as we continue on this, and keep our eyes out on the field as well, looking for anything that may be interesting happening on the ground. So we do appreciate all of your support, all of you watching. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that like button. Here's my streamer coming in. Don't forget the like button down below here on Rumble as well. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, we're trying to move some of our subscribers over from some left-leaning social media platforms to join us here on Rumble. Rumble has been instrumental in providing a platform for us to be allowed
huge
to
thumbs
broadcast.
up to Rumble. Huge thumbs up to Rumble. They have been fantastic to work with. They have been very supportive. I mean, when we had the ban happen yesterday, when we tweeted out, hey, this happened, they retweeted that and said, hey, here's another one. This is why you should be on Rumble, because this is going to continue to happen.
So thank you to Rumble. I'm reading some stuff. So Dan Scavino Jr. 2 minutes ago said April 4th, 2023, the guardrails are off, a turning point in the United States of America. There is no going back. Full body chills. I mean, it's happening. We're watching history before our very own eyes. What do you think of the scene right now outside the courthouse? Micah, I see you've got eyes on that.
Yeah, so, right now we're watching both supporters and non-supporters of President Trump outside the White House, outside the courtroom, the courthouse here in New York. And we've seen all morning and up to now a lot of support for President Trump. And then we've seen the people on the left who absolutely hate him just because who he is. And even Brian asked them, he said, do you love America? And none of them would respond in the affirmative. And that just goes to show who we're really up against. Whether you're 100% for Trump or you're 50% for Trump or whatever, at this point, it doesn't matter. We're facing a group of people that have literally gone so far as to hate the country that they were born in, hate the country that they live in, hate the country that they work in. And honestly, it's very sad to see this. Having been someone who, raised my right hand and took an oath to the Constitution of the United States, and seeing the way people are treating that same Constitution is very disappointing for me.
I agree. It's a very somber day here. So we are going to, for those of you who are just now tuning in and they want to know what's going on and what you're watching, President Trump is inside the courthouse. He is currently being, arraigned. There's a number of different words that are kind of interchangeable for what's going on today, but he's going through that process where he is turning himself in to the judge. And that was scheduled to begin 15 minutes ago. There are no live streams.
I am getting word that he has appeared before the judge now.
Okay, so it sounds like it's all on schedule. And I believe it's, on average, this would take it's about a 30 to possibly maybe 40-minute process for all of this to happen. I would imagine that they would kind of expedite it in this situation because they probably don't want him there for safety reasons as long as possible. It's better to get him out of that area with everything that's going on. So we are going to keep eyes on the ground until we know for sure that he has safely departed. And that is why we are live right now showing you this feed. We want to see if we can get any image of him walking out of the courthouse. We're going to stay on the scene until he is officially left the courthouse and en route back to his beautiful home in West Palm Beach, Florida, where he will have that 8:15 press conference. RSBN will be live a few hours before 8 to give you a pre-show from West Palm Beach about what's going on there. Now, I'm looking at an article that was just released by Daily Mail, and I normally don't cite them, but in this case, I think it's interesting. It's kind of circling the webs right now. It says, revealed terrifying rap sheets of the 10 worst New York City criminals who were repeatedly released by Manhattan DA Bragg as he focused on Trump indictment. So let's learn a little bit more about the criminals who were let
Real fast,
go.
I do have some breaking news.
Okay.
So Trump already appeared before the judge. He has now left the building, and he is now on the way. So that means that he has officially been arraigned. He has already placed his bond, and he is now free man once again until trial. So
Wow. Well, that was certainly expedited very fast.
it was very fast. That was 15 minutes, pretty much 15 minutes flat.
15 minutes flat. Wow. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen.
To me, we don't know 100% yet, but to me, obviously, we expect him to plead not guilty. And so that probably happened. Plead not guilty. Here's the bond. Pay the bond, and then he's out of there.
Well, it's good. They've got a lot of work cut out for them. I know his legal team is probably just glad to get him out of that mess of a city. He has mentioned that there's a reason he doesn't live in New York City anymore. He enjoys beautiful Florida. And we have a lot of work going into what's going to be happening tonight. So we are going to just have a few more minutes here so you can see this scene outside the courthouse. I'm going to finish up my thoughts on what's going on because I think it's worth noting Alvin Bragg has been criticized for his soft on crime policies that let many career criminals back out on the streets to terrorize New York. His team has arrested President Trump in Manhattan today. Despite spending months going after Trump, Bragg's team has failed to take down some of New York City's worst repeat offenders, including several with 100 plus arrests. And I will go into this more tonight for tonight's broadcast. I'll be back later this evening, but you can look that up on dailymail.com. So they are, that is sickening. The people of New York City, the people of the country should be pissed because quite literally the physical safety of themselves, leaving their house, going to get groceries, anything is more at risk. I mean, this is sickening, and that is a crime against humanity. This man is not doing his job, the job that he swore to uphold and defend.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's DAs like this across the country that are causing all these problems. So when we talk about, I didn't talk about here, but like local elections matter in more ways than one. District attorneys matter, and they're so important. So when we're talking about, this is not a federal DA. This is not a federal attorney, a federal prosecutor.
No.
This is a local Manhattan district attorney's office, DA, that is doing this. So when we talk about importance of elections, local elections matter too. Make sure you get the right DAs in your offices.
Absolutely. Well said. A quick reminder, I need to talk about our friends and give them a shout out over at Blackout Coffee Company. We would not be able to be doing this broadcast without them today. We are deep when it comes to cam ops across the East Coast right now, from New York City to Palm Beach, Florida. We have you covered from multiple different angles, and that is because of our friends that have partnered with us and helped make today's broadcast possible. So if you are tired of the same old monotonous liberal flavored coffee brands, stop giving your money to woke companies that just don't care about you. Go with a coffee option that aligns with your conservative values, and my friends, that is Blackout Coffee. It's not enough to simply taste great. You want to be proud to support the company knowing they align with your conservative values. That's why I insist you give them a try. I'm proud to personally recommend Blackout Coffee, a company that is 100% committed to conservative values. From sourcing the beans to the roasting process, customer support, or shipping, they've got an incredible work ethic and are dedicated to promoting conservative principles, and they accept no compromise on taste or quality. Do me a favor, check them out. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/RSBN. You can use coupon code RSBN for 20% off your first order. Ditch the other guys and remain true to our values. That's blackoutcoffee.com/RSBN. So important, as I mentioned earlier today, but I mean, the gloves are off. It is all hands on deck. And as far as, getting involved in local elections or just supporting companies that support your values, this is the point where we have to focus on every single detail, because every single thing we do matters, from where, especially not just who we vote for, but I feel like it's probably 50-50, but who we spend our money with and what companies that we are spending our money with, because you can see where in turn they actually take a lot of their profits and they just go and support some horrific organizations. So that's something to look at when you're spending your hard-earned money. So thank you to Blackout Coffee, thank you to Birch Gold, and thank you to Tax Network USA for making today's broadcast possible. It was, wow, we're starting to see some of the images come in of President Trump walking through those corridors. Again, where only 5 photographers were allowed, and those were all hand-picked by the judge that hates President Trump. So RSBN was not invited to be there.
No, and that really shouldn't shock anybody. We're not we're not very positive in the mainstream media. They don't like us very much because we like to show just what's happening and let you guys make a decision. But that's not how they like to play it.
Yeah. So if you are anxiously waiting to hear from President Trump, as we all are, then we will bring that to you at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. RSBN will be live before that to show you coverage and to interview some of the people on the grounds at Mar-a-Lago. I know that Mike Lindell is planning to be there, and a number of other people. Marjorie Taylor Greene will be there. So hopefully we'll have some interviews. Brian Glenn will be there, and it's going to be a very exciting, I don't know if that's the right word,
It'll be
interesting.
It'll be interesting. I will be very happy to hear what President Trump has to say about what happened in the courtroom. And by then we should have more information regarding exactly, what's happened, what's going on.
Look at him. Look at that face. That man.
Yeah, he's not a happy camper right now.
Not happy, but that is who I want fighting for me. Going into battle, that's my leader. Pick your battle, pick your leader, as they say. You'll see these images later. I will repost this one specifically on my Twitter. You can follow me. I encourage you to do so at LizWillis_ on Twitter and at Liz on Truth Social. I'll be posting this photo, and I'd love to hear your comments as well. But President Trump looks as good of shape as ever. I think this is the best I've ever seen him today. He is obviously working very hard to make sure that he's in prime shape for that 2024 presidential election, and this as well. He's looking very sharp.
Yep. Quick correction I do want to make. He has not gotten as far as we know, he's actually not gotten in the motorcade and left. He was in the courtroom, and he was appearing before the arraignment, but we're not seeing any reports at this second that he has actually left the courthouse. Okay. So we're still waiting on confirmation on that. We do know that he has walked into the courtroom. He has appeared before the judge for the arraignment, and we're just kind of waiting on that final, that he has left. We're getting some mixed reports that he has and he hasn't, but we're just kind of waiting on that. But like we said, Brian's on his way right now to Florida so that we can have someone on the ground there to talk to people there, and then also for the press conference as well. So we are going to keep you guys updated as we continue to watch this and, see this unprecedented attack. It is an attack on our justice system and how we're supposed to, actually function in a republic. And that's just not what we're seeing today. And the fact, you brought it up, the fact that President Trump's the one being indicted, not Hunter Biden.
Yeah. It's a joke. I'm watching right now. President Trump made no comment to the media as he entered the courtroom today. I believe you might have been able to watch this earlier just a minute ago. But Brooke Rollins posted something, and I think it's kind of what I'm feeling right now. She said it really well. She just said, "So proud of my former boss. Even in the face of such darkness, his strengths light the way." And it's a photo of him stepping outside of Trump Tower that I mentioned earlier. That is a historic photo. And she's right. There's something about him that is so strong that for most people, I'm a very empathetic person, and my heart would just break. I'd want to cry, but I have faith knowing that he's fully capable of handling the situation. He's going to handle it like a boss, and he's lighting the way for all of us. His bio recently changed on Truth Social. I don't know what it was before, but I noticed a change. It says, "They're doing this to me because they can't get to you," something along those lines. And that's exactly what's happening. He's fighting this battle on behalf of all of us right now.
Yeah, and I hate to say a broken record, but the fact of the matter is that we're watching political persecution that's never happened in the United States. And people will say, the Banana Republic or whatever. But we've seen this with other countries. We saw it with Brazil. We saw it with Venezuela. We saw it with a lot of Eastern European countries. We've seen it all over this world. China, during the Mao Revolution, we saw this kind of action being kind of the stepping stones towards ultimately a fall of the country into a communist type state. And I hate to be like, oh yeah, this, we're going to end up being a communist state. I think we still have time to fight back. And I say that in a peaceful manner, going to the voting block, voting the appropriate people in. I still think we can save this country. And I 100% believe in that. But it's going to take every single one of us getting out there, talking to people, educating people on the truth, because they're definitely not getting the truth from the news.
No, not at all. Like, I watched this quick clip. It's the video where this screenshot came from. Right. But I want you to look at that face. Look at that mean mug. Wait for it. There. Ooh.
Yeah.
If looks could kill, he just took out every single person in that media.
Yeah, and that goes to show, though, who was actually in the hallway. He mean-moaned every single one of them. He's called them, fake news for a long time. So it doesn't surprise us at all what we're seeing there. But again, guys, we are still waiting on the official confirmation that he has left the courthouse. We do know that he did appear before the judge during the Trump arraignment. And we're starting to get some of those pictures out of the courtroom of him during the arraignment. So we'll keep you guys apprised as that continues on. But the images you're seeing right now is outside of the courthouse in the square, just about 200 meters, 200 yards or so from the courthouse itself, where you have a lot of Trump supporters gathered in support of President Trump, and then also a lot of protesters gathered, and obviously against President Trump. So we're still, again, waiting on that official confirmation that he has been arraigned and has been released. But as we said, we originally got some information that he had left, but at this time it looks like he has not actually left the courthouse yet. But he is or has currently been appearing for the judge for arraignment. But like I said, you're just seeing some images right now outside of some of the different protesters talking to each other. It looks like, on the right-hand side, you see a group of pro-Trumpers and anti-Trumpers kind of arguing at each other right now regarding the situation. Left-hand side of your screen, you see a bunch of media interviewing people, and we've seen that all day. We've actually seen it all week. There's been media camped out in front of this courthouse since we got the initial confirmation of the indictment last week. It has been crazy, the amount of media. I honestly have never seen so many media in my entire life. And I've been to Trump rallies. I've been to some pretty big things like CPAC, March for Life, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and I've never seen media present like we are. And one of our engineers here said that it looked like vultures coming down on people that walked out, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we saw that earlier.
Vultures, piranhas.
Clip is up on our Twitter and all of our other socials, True Social, of course, and everything else, of showing how they just swarmed, and the police were virtually overwhelmed by the media, not by protesters, by the media, which kind of gives you a little hint about maybe what side they're on.
Yeah, I'm looking at the photos of President Trump right now. I believe he's actually still inside. So we're going to have to confirm that. Again, things are really difficult. They're struggling to provide information. And this is, actually, I'm going to read you a quick tweet I saw earlier today. I think it's gone. But we're about to have a trial that we're not going to be able to live stream. It's not just today, like the arraignment. It's one thing not to have cameras in the arraignment. The entire trial not being able to have access to. The left is going to continue to be able to kind of spin their own narrative and get away with whatever they want, and it's quite frightening. I'm going to see if I can pull that back up.
And
but
one of the things that is interesting is that New York City and state is one of the only states in the entire union that actually prohibits cameras in the courtroom. Now there are some exceptions, like we see today with, I think it was 5 different outlets being allowed to be in there for still pictures only, no video, no live streaming, anything like that. And there are a couple other states that also very strictly regulate these kind of things. But we also see some states that aren't as regulated, like Arizona. We were able to watch the election hearings go on because they were live streaming it and things like that. So we were able to carry that here at RSBN as well. So we do know some courts allow it, but there are a lot of courts that don't, and we're seeing that specifically here in New York. And it's because it's so unprecedented. It's also very interesting that it is not being allowed to be shown, because you would assume that something like this would be kind of important to showcase that this is occurring. At least have audio. At least have audio that you can listen to, but you don't even have that.
No, I believe there's a group somewhere, and I'd have to find it. I'll have it for you later this evening on the broadcast. I don't know if it's a GoFundMe or what I saw, but they're trying to basically petition to get cameras involved in the court case. And I've also seen some mixed messaging from Trump's team as well, whether or not they want cameras there. So I will have to do a little bit more research on that, but I'll bring all my newfound facts to tonight's broadcast this evening. I am refreshing to see if the Team Trump has sent out any memos, and there is nothing yet. I think it's possible he is still in the courtroom. They are slowly releasing photos, and it looks like AP has sent out the first photo. We at Mike Crispy NJ has posted one, and it says an innocent man sits in court, and it's a photo of President Trump as he sits there listening to what's going on. And these are just being released within the past minute or so. And again, these are coming from the 5 hand-selected photographers. Within the past few minutes, the official Trump mugshot white cotton T-shirt has become available, and it's. Let me click on this link to see, because I kind of want one. All right, it is an official Save America Win Red fundraising with the logo.
Shrunk. At least you don't have to shrink it again.
That's
shrunk. Nice.
They're learning. Says not guilty, and then President Trump. It's not, of course, any mugshot from today, but it's an edited one.
We do know that he has been fingerprinted. I'm not sure if they did plan on doing mugshots, if that was even necessary for today. Again, that's all going to depend on the local courts and kind of what their process is. But obviously, we expect that if that is the case, there are mugshots that we will see, those come to light, because the media won't, be able to restrain themselves. But like we said, we're monitoring the situation right now. You're seeing live pictures outside of the courthouse from supporters and protesters out there, and you're also seeing a lot of media, of course, as well. Arguing back and forth, all kinds of things going on outside. So to stay tuned here. We will let you know as soon as we do that he has officially completed his arraignment and is on his way back to Florida. And like I mentioned before, we do have coverage tonight starting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 5:30 Central Time that he will we'll have coverage to begin our coverage of his press conference. Now, I just saw, and I know you just did as well, is that he has officially pleaded not guilty, which, I don't know.
As expected.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
No, he is going to plead not guilty. That is what was going to happen, and it has officially happened. So President Trump has officially pled not guilty to all felony charges as he appears in the Manhattan courthouse today. Charges brought upon him by D.A. Braggs, who President Trump has now called for him to indict himself. So this is going to be a really interesting trial, and we're going to try and cover it as much as possible. 13 felony charges is what is being brought against President Trump. And that
13? I thought it was 34.
Sorry. I'm literally looking at the number 34, and my brain said 13.
I thought it was 34.
It's been a long morning, but it's I wish it was 13, but I was going to say 34 is absolutely astronomical. It's unheard of, and they are, again, reaching common ground here is that they are trying to get whatever they can to just get him to, well, I don't even think they care if he were to be guilty or not. They don't care about his crimes. All they care about is him not running for president.
Right, and something that, can be put out there is that you can actually be a felon, even if you're convicted, and still run for president. That doesn't keep you from running for president, but you can't vote for yourself because you can't be a felon and vote.
Yeah. Well, convicted felon versus felon, like charged with felonies.
Convicted. So
if he's not charged yet, but still.
Even if he was charged, he can still run. There's no barrier here from him running. This is all a political game of just trying to discredit and defame him in a way. But something that, also here, not here in New York, but in New York, there is different classes of felonies. So these felonies specifically are what they call Class E felonies, which is kind of like the lowest grade felony that there is. Class A is kind of like the highest, as you might imagine. It's just over a misdemeanor charge, and this is where we're talking about them changing from a misdemeanor to a felony, and we've heard that thrown around as well. So this will be Class E felonies, and this a felony basically means you can spend at least 1 year in jail. I'm not sure about New York specifically regarding how much a fine could be, but I do know usually it's $100,000, $200,000, somewhere around there per felony. So if he got convicted, which I don't think would happen, of course, but if he was convicted of all 34 charges, he could be sentenced to at least 34 years in prison. So that's some information for you. Again, that's kind of a minimum. The state of Florida, or not Florida, the state of New York might have different kind of specifics. Again, this is coming from my personal experience with the law, having been a law enforcement officer in the state of Georgia before. Felonies are a minimum of 1 year. But again, and I think you're probably on the same page with me, I don't really see that happening where he's going to be convicted on this.
No, I don't see him being convicted at all. But again, they're going to have a trial that the public doesn't have any access to. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to continue to cover it as best as we possibly can and fight for truth. So it's being released right now that
1 to 5 years. I just found it. 1 to 5 years, Class E felony. So max 5 years per, which would be over 150 years.
Absolutely bizarre.
That's a life term.
Absolutely bizarre. And it's disgusting. But 2 minutes ago is when people really started. I guess we beat them to it. But now, the Twitter sphere is now saying Trump has been pleading not guilty to all charges. So we are still waiting for President Trump to depart the courthouse, waiting to see if we can get any footage on that. Right now, what you're watching is a live shot outside the Manhattan courthouse, where it's hard to say how many people I think are there without being there, because we're just getting different angles, but I mean, easily 10,000 people. Micah, thoughts?
It's kind of hard. I haven't really seen any air shots. I know some of the news agencies have helicopters kind of in the area, but I do also know that they're kind of keeping them somewhat away. So I'm not entirely sure exactly how many people are there. I do know, though, I would say at least 1,000, if not more. And
there's like 500 press alone.
Right. And I'm just talking about like non-press. I'm not talking about media. Okay. I'm just talking about like protesters or supporters, one of the two. And I think there's at least 1,000 there, if not more. Again, you're kind of restricted on what we can see from where we are, it being a city like it is. We can't see around the building, but we do have, boots on the ground here with cameras shooting this live. So bringing this to you unedited, like you don't see anywhere else. You're not seeing this necessarily on Fox News, CNN, and so forth, like you're seeing it here. And again, we're going to keep you up to date as we get more information from inside the arraignment, which is happening right now. And we're just kind of scouring the interwebs right now for you guys to see if there's any more photos coming out. We only have seen, I think, one photo from inside the courtroom, and then we saw that clip of Trump coming into the courtroom in the hallway. So again, we are very restricted here. We don't, besides being banned on YouTube yesterday, we are still, we're not in with the mainstream media. So we don't get the pleasure of being invited by the judge to be inside the courtroom.
No, then there's an article that's just been put out by the DC Patriot. As Trump is arraigned, FEC data shows judges' political contributions against Trump and other Republicans. And that's no surprise, but Micah, at what point is that a conflict of interest, and does he need to recuse himself from being the presiding judge on this case?
So, judges are supposed to be unbiased, and obviously every single person has some type of bias in them with every subject, just because we have our own thoughts, we have our own feelings, and so forth. But there is a level where you should recuse yourself.
Is that level when the judge who's on the Trump case, made 3 contributions to, among the contributions, 3 of them were to earmarked for Biden for president, Stop Republicans, and Progressive Turnout Project?
So I definitely think there's a case to be made for that 100%. And, in those situations, so, how would this occur? Let's say the judge doesn't recuse himself. What happens? Well, of course, during the actual trial, which this is not the trial, this is just the arraignment, so that nothing of this would happen here. But during the actual trial, of course, the defense attorneys could make a motion for the case to be dismissed because of some type of bias inside of the judge, or they could appeal it to another court. Clearly
impartial.
I would doubt his impartiality. Now, we're getting information that it looks like, some of his donations were, not necessarily huge donations, but they were still smaller, supportive of Trump's opponents, and definitely something to consider as we continue watching.
He probably
this
should have thought about these donations before even making them. Like, this is all going to be. This can be. Well,
there's a lot of things going on right now, and I'm sure all our reviewers know about this with the DAs and the assistant DAs, and I'm sure you saw earlier that the DA's office had taken down their entire page about how many people worked under the DA and where they worked, because they were starting to find things about some of his people that worked for him being very, very left-leaning, very supportive of Kamala Harris's campaign. And we've talked about this, the judge's daughter having potentially worked for the Kamala Harris's campaign as well. I haven't seen any confirmed reports of that, but I have seen that being thrown around as well. So there's definitely some questions here with the judge's ability to be unbiased. And the last thing we want is for this type of unprecedented action to go before a judge, which is biased by nature.
Thank you, Micah. All right, we are still waiting to see any motorcade movement, any action of President Trump departing the courthouse today. I know he will be very relieved to finally get out of there and just to be able to head home after this terrible day. And right now, you've